Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in Israel today meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the country's new far-right government.
Israeli-Palestinian relations are on the agenda, and the meeting comes after days of deadly retaliatory attacks in the region. Blinken condemned the violence and reiterated the importance, in his view, of a two-state solution.
As we advance Israel's integration, we can do so in ways that improve the daily lives of Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza. And that's crucial to moving toward our enduring goal of Palestinians and Israelis enjoying equal measures of freedom, security, opportunity, justice, and dignity.
Officials also discussed America's support for Israel's security, especially against threats from Iran.
We want to bring in Anna Foster, who is in Jerusalem with our partners at the BBC. Anna, Secretary Blinken talked about the importance of de-escalating what he called new and horrifying surges in violence. Can you just lay the groundwork for us? We've seen some of the worst fighting between Israel and Palestine in years. Just how bad is it, and how likely is it that there could be a de-escalation anytime soon?
Well, Secretary Blinken's visit was announced before we saw these deadly events of the last week or so. Last Thursday, we saw the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, moving to Jenin in the occupied West Bank. Now, they said that they had received information of an imminent terror attack, and they were going in to try and solve that issue. But in that raid, 10 Palestinians were killed. It was one of the deadliest incursions by the IDF in recent times. And then around 24 hours later, on Friday evening, just hours into Shabbat, and on what was International Holocaust Memorial Day, a 21-year-old Palestinian man shot dead 7 people outside a synagogue in a settlement in occupied East Jerusalem. That was the backdrop to Secretary Blinken's visit, and I think expectations were really heightened. Certainly the State Department made it very clear that trying to encourage de-escalation, trying to really bring a level of calm to this part of the Middle East would be one of Secretary Blinken's absolute priorities in his meetings today with the Israelis and again tomorrow with the Palestinians.
And Anna, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he also announced that there would be counteractions taken by Israel against the Palestinians. And one thinks we keep describing the government there as the most right-wing in Israel's history. Just one reason why people say that is the individual in charge of internal security, the Israeli police, has a prior conviction for supporting a terror organization and inciting racism. This is within the Israeli justice system. What confidence can there be that we're on a path to de-escalation when you have a government run with people like that in charge?
Yeah, this is Itamar Ben-Gvir from the Jewish Power Party, who is now the National Security Minister. In order for Benjamin Netanyahu to regain his position as Israeli Prime Minister, which, remember, he'd held for years and years until we had that flurry of elections here in Israel, he has had to put together a coalition. That's always the way it works in Israeli politics. You need to find people to be in your coalition with you. And this time round, Benjamin Netanyahu had to rely on the far right of Israeli politics, religious nationalists, people who have, and certainly in the case of Itamar Ben-Gvir, who have come out with many, many anti-Arab sentiments in the past. And as you say, what prospect then for de-escalation when these people now have important and influential positions within the Israeli government? I think when we look at the statements that were made after those meetings today, there were some key clues to look at. So Secretary Blinken again talked very clearly, very explicitly about America's commitment to the two-state solution. And he talked about what that would mean, the equal measures for the Israelis and the Palestinians. But when Benjamin Netanyahu was speaking, he didn't talk about the two-state solution at all. He talked about a workable solution with our Palestinian neighbours. And that is because if he wants to stay Prime Minister, he needs to keep his coalition partners happy, and they will not entertain the idea of a two-state solution.
Wow.
And Anna, there are reports of anonymous U.S. officials who are claiming that Israel is behind this weekend's drone strike on an Iranian military plant. The Pentagon has denied any involvement. What do we know about the attack, and why is this facility targeted if it is the case that Israel is behind it?
We see events like this, and it is always so difficult to know exactly what has happened because, as you said there, the US don't want to comment, and Israel never comment either about what they've been doing. And they often carry out missions in Syria. In this case, what we believe happened, and of course finding out information from inside Iran is always very difficult. We heard from their defense minister that they said that this is a drone attack which had been thwarted on a weapons production facility. Now, they said that it had caused minimal damage, but of course it really plays into many of those Israeli concerns about the country's security. And again, when we heard Benjamin Netanyahu speaking earlier, the thing that he talked first about and the thing that he talked longest about was the problem, as he sees it, of Iran, the threat, the existential threat to Israel that Iran poses. And that is why both he and Secretary Blinken spoke very strongly about the need to stop Iran from developing a nuclear weapon and the fact that they would work together, particularly in the field of protecting Israel from any potential Iranian threats.
I mean, the timing of the strike is interesting.
Anna Foster, bracing with your clarity, I hope that you, for many reasons, have a very boring job ahead of you, but I think that region is only getting more interesting and more deadly at the moment. Anna Foster, thank you very much.